Hey, what's going on, guys? All in channel, host Sega Forever here. I know this story broke last week. I didn't get a chance to give my thoughts on it. I'm going to do that now. Just been a real busy lately. But as you guys can see, the report that Bethesda Starfield, which is Bethesda's next big thing, right? That's their next new IP that they've been working on, is going to be an Xbox exclusive, which technically means that it's going to be within the Xbox ecosystem, and more importantly, it'll probably be on Game Pass day one. Now, I am not an insider. So I don't know if this is true or not. A lot of the gaming media guys are putting this stuff out here. As you can see, the article I'm referencing is from Paul Tassi, who's not a, who's never, shown himself to be a huge Microsoft or Xbox guy. But even he's putting this information out. Um, but I mean, I'll take this stuff with a grain of salt. I don't want to give any bum information out there because I haven't heard anything officially from Microsoft. And again, I was busy last week, but I still kind of keep up with this stuff as much as I can. And that's why I wanted to do the story because this was so huge. Because as you guys know, man, if you guys are all in Xbox All In like I am, or Xbox Strong, and have been following Microsoft, since 2013, stuff like this par for the course, right? Microsoft purchased Bethesda last year for $7.5 billion. There's a lot of stuff that was said about the purchasing and stuff like that, but for all extensive purposes, Bethesda and Bethesda and ZeniMax Online and all their studios technically belong under or belong to Microsoft because they paid for them. But even when that news broke, man, there was a lot of people outside, especially on the PlayStation side, that are saying that their stuff's going to come over. Like Bethesda's new IPs are coming over to PlayStation. Now there is some IPs that Microsoft has done that they allow to go on other consoles, but paying $7.5 billion for Bethesda, that's signaling to the rest of the gaming industry that this is a new Microsoft. Um, and I'm not going to talk about all the console war stuff because it's out there, man. Like I said, if you want to go into the trenches and stuff like that, just go on social media. I mean, there's still people talking about it to this day, even though the story came out last week, man. Because these guys, they just won't buy an Xbox. That's what drives me nuts about people that hate on Microsoft and hate on Xbox. Usually on the PlayStation side, these guys will never buy an Xbox, and that's why they keep on acting this way. If they want to play the game, dude, just buy an Xbox. Dude, there's guys on Xbox side, hardcore guys that own PlayStations or Switches. There was a time I had a Switch because me and my daughter played Animal Crossing together. It's like one of the few games now that that we can play together. Um, Even though we did play, what game did we play? We were playing Outriders for a little bit. But my daughter's busy with school and stuff like that, so. Um, but even Animal Crossing was a big disappointment for me, so I basically, and even for my daughter, so I basically just sold my Switch. Um, yeah, but this is good news, man. If you're an Xbox fan, if you're Xbox Online, like I said, if you're an Xbox consumer, especially, this is huge. Because keeping Starfield within Microsoft's ecosystem is really important right now. It's kind of interesting because there's a story that came out a couple months ago. I didn't get to talk about it, but I'll reference it here. There's a story that came out, was it like a month or two ago? But it's basically all the stuff that's going on with Apple and Epic and Microsoft got dragged into it, right? Like there's a court case going on, intellectual rights, properties, access, and all that crap. I was keeping up with that and stuff like that, but the most interesting thing that came out, especially from the Microsoft side, um, was basically a letter that an email that Phil Spencer had with the head of Epic. And at the time, there's a lot of people that are saying stuff online because of that. There's even Xbox guys losing their mind about it. I mean, me personally, I didn't buy much into it. Was number one the timing of it, right? I mean, this happened over like a year and a half ago. Even though the court case is current, a lot of the stuff that was going on was, is not as current. So referencing the email, and when you read the email that Phil Spencer was having, the back and forth he was having with the head of Epic, it's just classic Phil Spencer, man. He's saying things without saying things. I mean, he's very professional. He minds his P's and Q's. He watches what he says because he knows what he says people will act upon. So it's a very politically correct statement, if you're asking me when I read it. Now, is there any weight to it? Possibly. That was something that Microsoft could have been looking at. And basically, what I'm talking about is Microsoft putting Game Pass on other consoles. That's what Phil acknowledged. But again, like I said, this was a while ago, and that might have been the game plan for Microsoft. It might be the game plan now. A couple things to keep in mind is that that Microsoft of then, when that email was done, is different than the Microsoft that you have now. And yes, I know it's only been a short time, but that's how fast things change in the gaming industry. If you guys are like me and we keep up with all this stuff, you understand that. And then you add in like how good Game Pass is doing, and one of the reasons why was that Bethesda purchase. That Bethesda purchase, changed everything. In fact, me and my boy Hebot, man, the world's most powerful gamer, we did a series of videos that you can check out on my channel where we talk about what a big purchase that was. Not just money wise. I mean, it was money wise a big purchase, but it just basically changed the game. It basically it put Microsoft in a different light. It's Microsoft being the beast that they are, doing what they need to do to make their brand successful. You know, and as fans and consumers, we benefit the most from that. I mean, it's a good thing. And with this news coming out, man, if it is confirmed by Microsoft, which I hope it is, I got a pretty strong feeling that it will be, because it all boils down to right now, it all boils down now to Game Pass. Game Pass has been, for the most part, Microsoft has been working, blood, sweat, and tears, infrastructure, building up these third-party deals, getting people to come on board, buying studios, doing all the things they need to do um, to make Game Pass successful. And they've been doing it for the last couple of years. And little by little, over the last 2 years, you see people changing slowly, but surely. You see people seeing the value in Game Pass over time. Yeah, it took a little while. I mean, there's a lot of haters that they have, and you see that now, especially because the thing that really kicked Game Pass into high gear and changed the perception for everybody of what Microsoft is and what they're trying to do is basically that Bethesda purchase, and then not to just purchase Bethesda, but drop all their games in the Game Pass. Right? So basically, it's Microsoft. They took care of all their haters in one fell swoop. Again, they built in the background. They were working behind the scenes. They built up to it. Phil was doing all these interviews talking about it, you know, kind of cryptically, but just Phil being Phil. But he talked about it little by little, and you saw it kind of flourishing. But man, once Game Pass started taking off, and then on top of that, when Bethesda got bought, dude, they went with that was the total nuclear option right there. Again, Microsoft being the big company that they are, and then again, like I said, dropping it into the Game Pass, so that you know all the stuff about it. That's where's your AAA games right there. All in Game Pass for everybody, and there's a lot of people who play Bethesda games, so that's another thing. Right? And then for Game Pass itself, man, Game Pass, even back in the day, man, when people were complaining about it, I used to hate that because I'm like, dude, I bet you these people don't even have Game Pass. Because there's no way if they're gamers, they're not enjoying this system, enjoying this service for what it is. I mean, just how easy it is. Uh, just the system itself, what it is. How easy it is to download games, how easy it is to navigate the menus, all of that stuff, dude. They've worked on this, and like I said, even back in the day, it was great. So people used to say that to me. I'm like, dude, either you're not a gamer or you don't have this, you don't have the service. I'm not saying as an Xbox fan. I'm just saying as a guy who likes to play video games. These people say they like to do, you know. But it took Microsoft constantly expanding the service and then adding those third-party titles, which is huge. And then on top of that, man, doing the Bethesda purchase, right? That changed the whole game. So much so that a lot of the media changed overnight. It's like people flipped on a dime. The only people, and then like you see normies coming over now, right? You're hearing stories of people not being able to find an Xbox. You hear that about PlayStation all the time. The media would drive that frenzy. I thought part of that was propaganda, but you never hear that about Xbox. But it's the real deal because a lot of these people want Game Pass. It's unfortunate they can't meet the supply and demand. Because I think if they did, man, they'd be even better shape than we are now. There's a story that came out like a couple weeks ago talking about or about a week ago, last week, where Microsoft, the Xbox actually outsold the PlayStation in Europe, in the EU. Now, for me, I don't follow console sales ever since Phil stopped following console sales because he does this. I talk about it all the time. He did an interview in 2015, and then I realized what he was doing. He was looking at the big picture, and I finally picked it up because I saw what he was seeing. So for me, the console sales thing has just been, part of the console war ammunition dump. So it doesn't really matter in that sense. That's great that they did sell more consoles, because all that means is that people buying the consoles and they're probably getting into Game Pass. Game Pass right now sits at 23.5 million subscribers, the last I heard, and that was a couple weeks ago. Who knows where it is now, right? But if you follow, I tell a lot of people, don't look at the console sales, or not even really the game sales. Those are important too, but look at that subscription. Look at this, keep track of that subscription number, right? Because like when everybody's talking about Game Pass and stuff like that, or when Microsoft purchased Bethesda, one of the reasons why you have stories like this where people have to confirm it, even though Phil Spencer talked about it directly, right? Is because there's a lot of people who won't buy an Xbox, usually on the Sony side, right? That is holding out hope. They want to play the games, but they don't want to buy an Xbox. They can get the game, they can play the game if they want. They just have to buy the system if they want. Because these guys are brand gamers. That's what I call Sony fans. These hardcore Sony fans, they're brand gamers. They won't buy any other system. They want it on their console. They just don't. And so with this right here, right? And I'm not saying that look, if you spend just your money, you spend it where you want it. You don't have to buy this console if you don't want to. But at the same time, realize the direction that we're going. Right? This is just Microsoft, and actually addressing a lot of the criticisms that they've had about having no games, having no AAA games, not having the most powerful system, not caring about indie developers, not having AAA titles. They basically spent the last several years working on every single one of those critiques to the point where they are now. That's why a lot of people who hate on Microsoft have no place else to turn. That's why they constantly, keep on going back and forth and basically keep on rehashing the same critiques over and over again. But it's to the point, once the stuff with the studio launches, it'd be great if Starfield launches this year. Regardless of how good the game is, nobody really knows. But I think it's going to be great because of the pedigree. I personally like Bethesda games for the most part. Right? So that'll be good for me because it's another nail in the coffin for all these haters that are out there. And once we can get beyond that, people can start focusing. Because what's happening is a lot of the normies are coming over. That's why you see the shift too as well. Because the normies are the ones, just like in movies, just like in anything else, pop culture, right? The normies are the ones that shift. They shift the money. They drive in some aspect. Well, I would say that the hardcore kind of drive the narrative. But when you see those numbers, man, just by their sheer numbers alone, when you have people not being able to get an Xbox, I have to deal with that at work a lot because everybody knows I play Xbox. And a lot of these guys either are on PC or don't play games at all, or play PlayStation. Like a coworker came to me trying to find, the system for a kid. I didn't know what to tell her because normally you don't have problems here where I live getting anything Microsoft. But they closed their store, number one. But you can still go to Gamepass. I had to use connections to get my S and X. And that blew my mind. Even when I was buying it, I was like, I can't believe I'm having to do this. I have to pull strings to get this thing. To get these consoles. Something I've never had to do. Ever. Where I live. Because this is Sony though. Everybody does Sony here. Not just being hardcore Sony, just because it's just, it's just like everybody else. And they go with the path. It's just the system of choice right now. It's the media darling. And they benefit from that. But again, right here, you guys see Starfield? On the fan part, it's great. But on the consumer part, it's even better because we want Game Pass to do well. That's what this is all about, is Game Pass. And driving subscriptions. Like I said, 23.5 is where they're sitting right now. Right? And all these people were complaining last year, hoping and dreaming that even though Microsoft bought Bethesda, they'd still get the games. And because of this news right here, and if it's confirmed by Microsoft, this just is going to blow that all up. And Microsoft is going to be, wielding that power that they have. Because Game Pass is a game changer, guys. Game Pass is, right now, Microsoft has done so much stuff in this industry that a lot of people don't give them credit for. Right, I was listening to the Exile podcast earlier. That's Erock X, Don King of Xbox. That's his podcast where he talked about, a lot of the guys were talking about, they did a podcast talking about the last 20 years, it's Microsoft's anniversary. Right, so they're talking about, what Microsoft has done, over these last 20 years. What was their big thing that Microsoft, for them, that they liked, that Microsoft did, and they're bringing all kind of cool stuff, man. And Microsoft never gets the credit, dude. Like the internet, number one, internet gaming, online gaming, The big one for me was the controller. Making first person shooter games playable on a console, which a lot of people take for granted now. But back in the day, you couldn't do it, man. You did it with Halo, and that changed the game. This is why you have the Call of Duties and stuff like that, right? A lot of the stuff that Microsoft does. I think they're the first console with a hard drive, right? And I only liked it too because I was able to put all my stuff on my hard drive, like on music and stuff like that, and you could play your games and listen to the music you wanted to listen to. It's great for driving games as well. But again, they never got the credit for that kind of stuff. And they're doing it again. They're pushing the envelope, not just for Microsoft and their console, man, but for the gaming industry in general. I mean, across the board, right? For other companies and the gamers, and even the media, because they get to report on this stuff. Right? Game Pass is huge. Game Pass is a game changer. They keep on building it. There's stuff they still need to do to ensure that Game Pass, as everybody says, Microsoft is Game Pass is the Netflix of gaming. To be the Netflix of gaming, they're not there yet. They got some stuff that they got to work on still, and I see them working towards that goal, and that makes me happy. When I see a story like this, that makes me even more happy because it means that they realize it and that we're heading in that direction. Because as we all know, man, and I know Erock and Unlimited and Hebot and Tuckmaster, Sega Man touched on this on their podcast and stuff like that. And they know this because we're all kind of in the same ecosystem as far as Xbox, but we're also huge nerds, right? We're also into geek culture, pop culture, nerd geek culture. That's what we do. We do more than just play games. We're into comics, we're into animation, we're into all that stuff. And then a lot of us have these streaming services, and we all know that content is king. Content is king, and that's the one thing I'll say Game Pass needs to round out is their content. And they're doing a great job, man. Trust me. But like I said, the idea of Xbox thing that can be like to indie developers, right? Like how Netflix does the indie stuff, right? They got the third-party publishers coming on board with Game Pass. Netflix does the same thing. A lot of the content Netflix has isn't their own content. They get it from other studios, other producers, whether they're big or small, right? They just want a lot of the content out there, right? Game Pass has a lot of variety, so does Netflix, right? It's something for everybody. That's what they're shooting for. You don't have to have, you have to have, if you're trying to be a big tank, you have to have something for everyone. That's just the way it is, okay? And they have original content, which is what Microsoft needs to work on. And again, to Starfield, this is why this is important. You have to give people like Game Pass right now. Like I said, it's the new thing right now. Everybody's getting it. Everybody's buying the system to get into it, right? And rightfully so, man. Because another thing Netflix does is variety, and that's what Microsoft does. They have variety. They basically follow that blueprint. The only thing that they have to do is continue to get content. Um, they have to continue to get original content. Right? That's what they really need to do because people want. Look, when you're in services like Netflix and stuff like that, you want to know that you continue the subscription because a Stranger Things 4 that's coming out eventually, or Cobra Kai season 4. Especially the product's good, and that's another thing too. It's not just the variety or the AAA titles; it's good products. Netflix has really good programming. Obviously, I tried to watch Jupiter's Legacy. I don't know if I can finish that one, but the other night I finally finished up. What was it called? Dude, I can't remember the name. Star Sweepers? No. Space Crawlers. Space Crawlers? It's a Korean sci-fi movie, but it was awesome. And that's the great thing about Netflix. You never know what you're going to find. And Microsoft is the same way with their gaming. There's a lot of people you see them talking about it online, where they're like, I never would have played that game unless it was in Game Pass. And you have people that I never would have played that game, I like it. And then you have people that I never would have played the game, I liked it, but then I also love it. That's kind of what I do. I kind of know what kind of games I like, so that's not really hard for me. But it's amazing that an old gamer like myself, somebody who's been doing this for 40 years, someone who's kind of jaded when it comes to gaming, which can be a bad thing. That Microsoft has made gaming fun for me again because of these guys. And because I get to just download and just play. And then if I like the game, I just pick it up. That's what I always do. But like I said, Microsoft just isn't there yet. But this is a step in the right direction. They gotta continue to do this because whether you think this is fair or not, Microsoft has always been on the eight ball. We benefit. I've said this 100 times. We benefited from it as fans and consumers. But that just put them in a kind of, they can't make a mistake type of situation, right? So they're always going to be expected to exceed, not just meet, but exceed the consumer's expectations. Right? And more importantly, what I want to say is that with this Starfield purchase, or Starfield being original and stuff like that, because like I said, a lot of these guys are hanging on to the fact that this would go to PlayStation. What this does is it'll continue to bring people over, because I did a video talking about this. It's called market share, right? And then Microsoft, like I said, is having Gamepass do as well as it do, being in the position that it is the game changer to the point that Microsoft will be able to, you know, to take lead on this and change the industry as a whole. And by taking lead on this, they'll be the ones pushing this forward. And I want them to be the one pushing it forward because number one, they've proven that they can. Number two, they've proven that they keep in the gaming industry and the gamers, at the center of their services. So far, but at least with Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella, there is money, there is a business aspect from it. It's the reality and stuff like that. But as you all know, Phil Spencer is a pretty nice guy. And if we're gonna move forward into this new world of streaming gaming and streaming content, creative content and all that kind of stuff, the company that I would like to see be in charge of that is Microsoft because they are so much more flexible, and they are right now looking at the bigger picture, and they are kind of the good guys. Right? Plus, they're big enough to do it. They have the money to do it. They're not trying to protect Sony and Nintendo and all that kind of stuff. They have their own business model, but their business model, let's be honest with you, they just don't have the money to do what Microsoft can do. With Microsoft having the money and having their hearts basically in the right place, I think that's a win for us moving forward as a whole, just gamers in general. No matter what console of choice you have or whatever company you rep. Right? They put in the legwork, they put in the blood, sweat, and tears, they put in the money. They're trying to see it through, and they've done a lot of good stuff so far. We'll see how it all turns out in the end, though. This is a really huge step. Because once Microsoft had 23.5 million subscribers, right? And they keep on doing that, they keep on growing it. I know the console thing is an issue. Hopefully they can get their consoles out there, because I know people do want to buy it, they want to play it on console. But you get your console out there, you get your Game Pass, you keep on growing their subscription. I mean, by the end of the year, if they have 50 million subscribers, man, game over. That's why with all these guys saying, well, wait for it to come to PlayStation, and it's not coming to PlayStation, you're all sour. It won't matter if you're mad and you say you never buy an Xbox, because what Microsoft is going to do is they'll have a share, they have the biggest share in the industry. Right? And they'll be making the rules, and they'll be, hopefully they stay good like they are now. Obviously they're making money off of this. But I mean, they're going to forge forward. I would prefer them than any other company. Just think about it, man. If they get 15 million man game, it's just like all these guys saying, well, they're going to lose out on sales on PlayStation. No, they won't. They'll lose a little bit of sales. But if you have 50 million subscribers and everybody's on your console anyway, dude, imagine if they got like the Disney Plus. And Disney Plus is behind Netflix. And Disney Plus just had their financial report. They weren't happy about it. They put on a good face, but they weren't happy about it. But still, they have over 90 something million subscribers on their channel. Imagine if Game Pass does that. If Game Pass breaks 50, I think that would be amazing. If they can get up to 50, I think that would be awesome. And again, not hating, it's like, it would be awesome for me as a fan, yes, but mostly as a consumer, because that would kind of certify that what Game Pass is doing can continue. And I think that's great for the industry. Great for the developers, great for the publishers, great for Microsoft, great for me as a gamer. And if they do that, dude, 15. That's why this is important, because they really need to get this. And the only way they're going to do that is if they continue to go on the same blueprint that Netflix is doing, and having Starfield as exclusive in their ecosystem is a good sign and another step towards that reality. Anyway, I've ran really long, guys. Sorry. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. I'll try and put some more videos out. I've just been really busy. Like I said, time is an issue. I've actually been playing games. That's actually been cutting into this. Like I said, man, I'm a cog in the wheel. I don't mind being that way. I rear my ugly head when I got something to say. And this was something that I really wanted to talk about. And there's other things I want to put out as well. And like I said, I'll try and do that, wrap up the series with Hebot. Thinking about bringing my podcast back as well. I just got to get some stuff squared away so that I know that I can do it consistently if I'm going to invest the time into it. As you can see, I'm changing the format of some of these videos as well. Um, I'll continue doing that as much as I can. But yeah, definitely thinking about bringing back my my podcast, and I'll definitely do it. In fact, I even got a new name out for it and everything. I'll do a channel update and I'll share that everything with you there. But anyway, man, let me know what you guys think down below on the channel. Hosting the channel. We out.